The difference between me and you is dangerous. You should hang it up. You can't hang with us. Everybody around you claiming us.
Hi, welcome. This is Inalienable Ideations. I am IT3 Tyrra Cornelius. This is SK3 Olivia Peterson. Over here we have MK3 Samori-Remy. We have our two lovely guests, SKC Amad Hankins and ET1 Jerome A. Kennedy. Don't worry about the mysterious man, the whiz over here. That is our producer, PAITMST1, Stephen Knight.
That's the one.
In that order.
In that order, and put respect on his name. Thank you so much. So let's start off with why we're here. We are a subsection of Epic. And across from us, we have the founders of Epic. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves, tell us what Epic stands for, and how we got to this point.
All right, what's going on, everybody? She introduced me as ET1 Jerome A. Kennedy Jr., but my name is Shango as well. I'm known as that. EPIC stands for Enlisted Professionals in Connection. That is a Coast Guard affinity group. We're also a nonprofit business organization. And our goal and mission is to build meaningful relationships between Black and underrepresented minorities in the Coast Guard, as well as our mission is to improve the human experience in the Coast Guard for Black and underrepresented minorities.
Bro, why you go with the deep voice? Like, come on.
Listen, man,
Like,
trying to
I
ease
know
my way into it.
one, but y'all know that ain't his real voice.
Not
As
voice
we go on to
fishing.
this podcast, he gonna get to his real voice.
I like it. It was
Which
smooth.
is,
It was smooth.
Yeah, we got to ease our way
Like,
into the.
y'all
Ooh, like Tennessee whiskey, huh?
Y'all babies, y'all know about 95 point whatever in y'all city, the quiet storm. That's that voice he just gave.
All right.
Quiet stuff.
But the other half of Epic, y'all know me as Amad. I'm the one that's usually lightening up the crowd, but I'm glad that we have 3 young people here that's going to take Epic to the next levels.
Heavy on the young.
Heavy on the next level. So,
Yeah.
why do you guys think it's important to evolve from the organization into a podcast?
I would say that our biggest thing is to try and give a platform for the younger generation. You know, those of y'all that are coming up, E4 below, like, y'all are the future of the Coast Guard, and I mean that in all sincerity. So I would like for you all to be able to stay on this podcast, hopefully for the remainder of your careers, and people are going to get to see you progress. They're going to get to see your voice progress, your leadership style, your experiences throughout your entire career. And they'll have a place they can come and watch that. So that's my thought process.
I think just to piggyback off that is making us get to the next level, right? As we all know, the time comes in the Coast Guard, right? A lot of our peers that have paved the way for us have retired, and we're up next. So for this to be a sustainable organization, we have to usher in the next young people and people that we think can take the brand to the next level, whether it's what we dreamed of or what they dreamed of. So.
Let's talk about developing respect personally, professionally, interpersonally, intersex, all of the subsections of that. How important is it to develop respect and relationships in the workplace and outside of it?
I'll let you lead on this one.
Nah, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Wait, I would like to hear my fellow storekeeper go ahead and take charge on this
SK
one.
gang,
So Take that one, sir. Big SK.
I've been overruled.
Go ahead, sir.
Gotcha.
All right.
Light skin unite.
Ally.
That's the hashtag for the week. Actually, guys, if you're watching, hashtag for the week is Light Skin United. Thank you.
No representative.
Allies.
No dark skin.
Respect.
That's for next week.
Okay. I like that.
Respect is developed, I think, in a few different ways.
Okay.
First, you got to have the personal respect within yourself, right? So, in the workplace, that's showing up, being professional, getting the job done, right? That's going to lead to the professional and personal respect at the job, right? People usually respect those who they can count on and be reliable. I think those are the 2 first things, and then it comes to the next level of why we even made Epic, right? The network, right? Being able to respect everybody in the network for what they bring to the table. You'll see myself and Jerome, aka Shango, aka whatever you want to call him. We have developed a level of respect between each other. Even though we come from different backgrounds, we come from different personal upbringings, our rates are different, the way we move through the Coast Guard is very different, but we can respect the other person's viewpoint, right? So I think once we get all of those things into it, you build the community and you build the things that I'm sure Jerome is going to kind of piggyback.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with everything you just said. I would say that, understanding what you bring to the table, what makes you unique, that's where respect comes in play, because when you come into that workspace or whatever, and you guys are going to definitely see it more as you progress in your careers, like the way that other people are expecting things from you, that's really going to shape the whole conversation as it pertains to your workplace, right? And the way I look at it is that I say, like, the expectations that I bring into the workplace are always going to supersede what anybody else in the workplace is going to bring to me. Like, if you're coming to me thinking that, I have this work I'm trying to give you or whatever, I'm already thinking of work 10 times beyond what you're thinking of. So anything you bring to me, like, I'm going to supersede that naturally. You know what I'm saying? And that, I think, has helped shape the foundation for me as far as building respect in the Coast Guard and my personal careers. But I'm curious what y'all think about respect. Like,
Yeah, E4 Mafia. How we feel?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a great thing to have a lot of respect from people, but it's something that is earned, not given. It's definitely things that I've had personally going through as being a content creator in the Coast Guard. It's a lot harder to get respect from some people because they're like, oh, you're just doing this for stuff like giggles and stuff like that. Like, while that is part of it, I like to use my platform to be able to recruit and then show other parts of the Coast Guard that people don't see. So when somebody says, oh, this is nothing, this is nonsense, like, that does hurt my feelings a little bit. But then you get the people like Lieutenant Boyd that reach out to you, and big YouTubers, and you're like, hey, like, they actually see what you're doing. Like, now I'm doing partnerships with the Coast Guard as far as recruiting, getting on this podcast, a huge thing. So that really shows you, like, hey, if you keep on pushing and you do your thing and you're respectful with it, you can really go a long way and just gain that respect from other people.
You can go ahead. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you want to be shot next?
Oh no, I'm going last. I'm at the top all y'all.
Okay.
I'm at the top all y'all.
Last but not least.
Never.
I think respect is the foundation for every relationship, whether it be platonic, romantic, familial, professional. I think you have to have respect across all platforms.
I'm respecting y'all. Go ahead.
You have to be very demure, very
mindful of the people around
very
you.
respectful. Yeah. That means respecting people's time, showing up on time, finishing things on time. For senior leadership, letting people leave on time. Amen. Turning in your things on time, actually reading people's marks on time, giving things back to them on time. We respect people's time, we respect people's space.
Exactly.
It means, maybe being mindful of what you say at work because you're not always in the locker room. Men, being mindful that women are also in blue next to you. We are your sisters in service.
Allies.
We are allies. Respectful of the things that you bring into the workplace. I know a lot of times we create workplace family, but every family is not healthy. So making sure we keep a healthy workplace. Be mindful of the things that we say, mindful of the things we do, mindful of the things we eat. You should not be warming up fish at work. It's really not
Nor
demure.
showing up smelling as such. Like, you just have to be very...
Make sure you wash your uniforms. Thank you. It's not demure. It's not mindful. It's very concerning.
Yeah. I definitely agree a lot with what Samori said about respect is earned, not given. I think in the Coast Guard, it's a very big misconception that the rank is the respect, when that's not always the case. Sometimes you just have to be mindful of the people under you and how you treat them, because perception is reality in the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Not everything is as it seems.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Piggybacking off that concept, like I think that probably with any military service, but I mean, obviously in my experience in the Coast Guard, a lot of people may kind of fall back on that rank. You know what I'm saying? A little bit more than actually like what they're demanding in the workplace, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like we fall back on the concept, like, you got to listen to me because I'm in this position, I'm in this role, I'm this rank.
Yes.
But I think what's happening with the younger generation, the new generation coming up, is I don't know. I heard this acronym the other day, the FAFO generation.
We're big FAFO.
Yeah, FAFO generation. Y'all are like, you're going to challenge these things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's really, like I would like to hear more from y'all, like what y'all think about that concept, because generally speaking, like a lot of us coming from the older generation, we didn't have that, so we weren't able to have that platform like an Epic or something like that to challenge different people, and the Coast Guard wasn't necessarily as accepting of it back then. You know what I mean? So like, what is y'all perspective of that now? Like, are you?
What is that acronym? I have not heard that. What is that?
Yeah, I was about to ask the same question.
It's faith around and find out.
I like that one.
Yeah,
I am
faith around
big
and
on
find
that
out.
committee.
You gonna find out.
So
Yes.
y'all said it should be earned, not given.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that some people in your generation think it should be given?
Absolutely.
Walk in the
Definitely,
workplace
definitely.
And they don't work hard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So how does that go both ways? Do y'all challenge y'all's peers to
Definitely.
step up to the plate? Because sometimes y'all peers are not living up to this. They come with the dirty uniform. They don't come on time. They don't realize that they not at Chick-fil-A no more. Shout out to Samori. He's the greatest Chick-fil-A worker ever. We know that down in Tampa. He still owe us some chicken sandwiches down there. But
I got y'all.
a lot of y'all think that it should just be given to you guys more than anything.
Yeah.
So I think basic respect should be given, regardless of non-rate, third class, dirty uniform, clean uniform, because I can say on a good hand, I've seen a lot of chiefs that look like they just rolled out of bed, their uniform just got done arguing with a paper bag, and they come in and they're late, they're not motivated, they're grouchy, they don't want to say good morning, they just want to push off the workload, and you have to respect them. So I think if I come in and my uniform is, not the greatest, you still have to have basic respect now, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I'm a third and you're a chief. There's still that basic level, but you can't forget the personal level of respect, even though there's such a big rank difference.
No, it's funny you say that, because my first duty station as a third class, he's probably not in the Coast Guard no more, but he was a Commander Evans. We would walk past him every morning and you would say good morning, he wouldn't say nothing. He would just keep it moving. He didn't think he had to talk to anybody, and that wasn't about the pay grade. Sometimes the chief would walk past, sometimes the senior chief would walk past him. He wouldn't say good morning. That just wasn't his thing, to say good morning to anybody. At first I took it personal because I come from that where good morning is to everybody. I don't care if I don't know you, I don't care if you, I don't any of that, right? But I didn't take it personal because that just wasn't him. I didn't say, hey, I'm a third class, he's a commander, oh, he's not going to speak to me. I seen him start doing that to other people. I was like, oh, that's just not a person I want to deal with. But I still kept it professional. Every time I see him, good morning, sir, customs and courtesies, I did that, even though he didn't speak back. So I think sometimes that can be a personal thing. I don't think that's everybody in general, because you do have people like me. I speak to everybody. Samori didn't even know me when he was a recruit, right? I made it sure I spoke to him, right? I knew at some point in time I was going to see him in his career, right? Or he was going to see someone that I knew, right? And I made sure effort to speak to him. He didn't know me. That's why I can use the Chick-fil-A conversation, because he was talking to Chief Barry, another minority in the office, and they was talking about Chick-fil-A, how he had seen him at the Chick-fil-A, right? And that sparked a conversation for us, right? And that has led to where we're at just a year later, right? That's how fast this, can come up for anybody. So I think challenging people on that, no matter what their rank is, right? Challenging them and saying, is this somebody that just doesn't speak, right? Or is this somebody who I may need to ask them something different to figure out what's going on in their life, right? Because just like we got problems, that other person got problems. They may have way more problems, right? They probably got a family, kid. Wife probably about to go to divorce. Just like you want them to understand about you, we got to kind of make that sometimes a two-way street. And if you're not getting that from the supervisor, these supervisors have peers, right? Take their peer to the side and be like, hey, I speak to such and such warrant chief, senior chief, master chief. Hey, they never speak back. Is there something I'm missing here? Can you relay this message that even if they having a grumpy day, just speak, just acknowledge the conversation. I think that goes a lot further than you would ever think it goes, I think
that tying in on that, there is a disconnect from when people go from junior enlisted to senior enlisted. And I don't know what causes that kind of, it's like a complete switch. because it's not just the chiefs. There are second classes, there are first classes, there are lots of people, that even some thirds that feel like, oh, I've been third for a little bit longer, I can talk to people crazy. And even tying into what you're saying about you don't know what they have going on. But the Bible says to show yourself friendly. So how am I supposed to open the door with you if you is mean and nasty?
There's no church and state. You know that, right? Just messing with you. But I
Like
agree
I
with.
said,
I agree with you. Yes, rank does change people internally. That's why you'll never see me, no matter what rank I get, change who I am, right? Because rank didn't precede me. I view myself as a human, as Amad, as someone who's just the Coast Guard, just my job, right? You got to figure out what that person views, right? I have peers of mine. Once they make certain ranks, that's how they go and conduct themselves, right? We are in the military service, so you're going to have those people who are going to rely on that, right? And that's probably not the people you want to deal with, right? But if we transition this to another service, right? If we take ourselves out, we put ourselves in the Marines, do you say that? Right?
I think across the board it needs to be changed.
It
If
does.
We're talking about personal respect, not me walking up to a commander and calling by their first name because that would be disrespectful. But even me saying hello, Commander Concepcion, I walk to his office. Good morning, Commander. Good morning, Cornelius. See, that's super simple to do.
Yeah.
CO on my 270. Good morning, ma'am. How you doing, Cornelius? How's your day going? How's your son? Very simple questions to ask.
But what
people.
did those people have in common with you? Two fellow minorities, right? A female and a black person, right?
But a white female.
But it's still a female. It's a minority, right? She understands the struggle like you do. Sometimes the other person you may talk to, they don't understand that same struggle, right? This is
The
why.
struggle of wearing the blue uniform should be enough.
Exactly.
That's not a baseline thing to bring everybody together.
No,
at this
because
point?
some of this generation thinks that we done lost the military barons. So I shouldn't be talking to you. Some people think that. You have some of your military members who think, I am a certain pay grade, I shouldn't be talking to you.
And that's unfortunate.
Right? But in the Coast Guard, we're so, and like I tell kids all the time, we're so small, is that sometimes we have to navigate those rank balances, those background, those cultural balances. We have to put that all together. I tell a young kid, I said, I can take you to a small boat station and you'll see somebody there from 1 month to 20 years in the military. That is a lot of experiences right there on the table. So navigating those have to be very unique in itself, and that's why I think we made this to understand the person. If you understand the person, sometimes I don't think they do that, or if they go vice versa. But you got to realize some people just don't want to do that. They're going to be like, yo, you're in the military? Cool, I'm not doing that. And we got to you got to kind of not let those people speak for the whole entire
It's a lot of old guard versus new guard.
Yeah.
And that's where we get into the difficulty of it. Yeah.
See, I would like to take a different perspective on that because, I'm an ET, you're an IT, so you understand a little bit. There's some awkward people in our ranks, right? Some people that are
Very socially anxious people, yes.
Yes, socially they're different, right? And I'm saying that to say sometimes it really is that. And I think that if you want me to be honest about that, this is where, Amad and I have both understood kind of how we're different in the workplace, right? When it comes to the workplace, Amad is a little more social as he is right now. He's laid back, able to have communication, talk. I'm not necessarily that same way. But does that make me less of a friendly person? If you get to know me, you understand I have the biggest heart in the world. I'll do anything for anybody. But at the end of the day, getting past those barriers, it takes a little bit more time. It takes a little bit more effort. So, like when you're talking about these different people that you're running into in the workplace, sometimes you just have to step outside of yourself a little bit and reach out. Not necessarily make it about like what they're going to reciprocate to you, but also, you're extending yourself a little bit and understanding you're taking them out of their shell, out of their comfort zone in a sense. You're, even though they are higher ranked than you, maybe on the social platform, they're not. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like that might be a real thing. They might have all the professional skills in the world, but not the social.
To go off that, like that goes back to like just having relationships in the workplace, especially when it comes to doing stuff like morale or events like that. That really brings the family part of the Coast Guard into it, because I think that's really important to any unit in the Coast Guard, because without that, you don't know what's going on. Like, especially if you just have a bad command. Like, people say, oh, I had a bad command here, like we didn't do anything, there's always work, and it makes their perception of the Coast Guard bad.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as they go to the next unit, they're like, oh, they're a family here. We did this and that together, and we always just try to do our best as a team. That's when you get to see how the real Coast Guard is, and that's what I love about some of the unit, my unit that I'm at now. That we just do morale and we do stuff like that. That gets us out of just work, and how I talk to my chief is different. You know, he has an open door policy. Most chiefs don't have that. That's something I cherish in the Coast Guard because that's my relationship and my respect between him.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's very important in just the overall Coast Guard and workplace.
Yeah, and your unit becomes a network in and of itself in those type of environments. You know, like again, that's why, like Amad said, that's why we created Epic. We wanted to make sure that at times when you don't have that unit, you do have a network of people that you can lean back on so that you can kind of build those relationships in the Coast Guard from a different perspective.
Exactly.
So I'd be curious to know, you know, like, what has the experience been like for everybody else here in the Coast Guard so far? Like, have you had any bad experience, good experiences that you want to share? Like,
Are we name dropping?
I'm not name dropping mine.
Don't name drop. Name
You
drop
already name
experience.
dropped.
I name dropped in a way that
In
lets
a
you
positive
know.
way.
Yes.
Okay. So
yes.
only happy cat, no sad cat. All right.
I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was a non-rate on a cutter down in Miami, Florida. It was an FRC. And while on that cutter, I definitely experienced a lot of isolating feelings in a not so welcoming environment. There were no morale days. There were no open door policies. There was no, you know, and like how I think it was you had said that you can go in and say, oh, hey, CO, how are you doing? Hey, XO, hey, Ops, hey, Subco, XYZ. I couldn't do that with the Chiefs on my boat. And it caused a lot of headbutting because I was one of 3 people that looked like me, and then one person got off the boat and went to Bahrain, and he made chief, and he still helped me out a lot while I was on the boat. So this is for MKC.
Taylor.
Yes.
Taylor was on the boat with us.
Yes.
Yeah. It was just-
That's my MKC forever and always.
these good people.
But yeah, it was a lot of just, you're a non-rate. I heard a lot of, you should be seen, not heard. A lot of, oh, you're not qualified. Well, you know, if you're not one of us, you're not one of us. And they made sure that you're going to feel that you're not in the inside with us. You're not an engineer. You're not you're go get qualified. You should be studying somewhere. Like, you know, go do this, go do that. You know, a lot of times, oh, go and do this, and then leave me, and then I come and I'm getting in trouble because they're like, what are you doing? Why are you not with your third? And I'm like, I was told to do this, and they're like, you know, Chiefs, hey, and then it's only my fault because now I'm not listening to my chief.
Hey, sister, what the Chief sound like?
Like Pac-Man?
Yeah, that's all it sounded like in my ears. So I'm like, oh my
But
god.
what if in their Coast Guard you couldn't be on the mess deck or any of those until you were fully qualified? What is that the Coast Guard
It
that they
doesn't
came up
matter.
to?
They don't put you on a boat so that you can be isolated to rooms until you have
Secluded.
certain ranks.
Yeah.
That's not how that works.
And if
Like
you want
when the
somebody to
commandant
qualify,
first
put
became
yourself in.
when Linda Fagan first became the commandant, they didn't seclude her to one room until she got qualified and everything. She learned all the policies. She learned all the stuff. They gave her the resources. They worked with her. They walked her through it. They made
Exactly.
her feel welcomed and comfortable in her position. You don't do that to a you're a non-rate, you know.
Yeah.
You don't need to relax. Why do you need to relax? But I'm doing the same job as you. I'm on the same boat as you. We're both underway. We're both in the engine room. We're both in the bilge. But you get a break. I don't because I'm not qualified. Okay, now why would I go and tell someone, oh, join the Coast Guard?
Yeah.
Why? You're going to be a non-rate because you don't want to do what's critical. So, yeah, I think you should join the Coast Guard and come be told where you can and can't go on a small boat while you're underway because you're not quite grasping how to be an engineer. You've never been an engineer your entire life. But if you don't grasp it within 3 months of reporting to the boat, oh, you're going to sign this and now you're on port and starboard.
And that's what I hate. Like, I've heard there's so many how do you say, like, groups.
Like subcategories?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, if I'm engineering, I don't need to hang around deck. Like, I know there's always animosity between that, and that's
So West Side Story.
okay.
Be allowed to be. I'm saying it's like West Side
Yeah.
Story. Like the the Jets and the
Sharks.
Sharks
Exactly.
and the Jets.
Exactly, and I don't feel like it should be like that on like the cutter and stuff. I'm not gonna say anything because I haven't been on the cutter like that. But I will say, if you're a group like that, we're a small Coast Guard. That makes a big difference in being, as I said before, a family, and that makes people like that feel secluded when you're saying, hey, You can't be with us because you're not qualified. Obviously, they can't do certain things that you can because they're not qualified. But that doesn't mean, hey, let me show you the ropes. Let me show you how to get qualified, you know? When you do that, you don't give them any tools. You don't help them get qualified, and then you just sit there and rank on them because, hey, I'm qualified and you're not. But I'm not going to show you how to do it.
So the gray area should be what we should play in more than anything.
It's just it goes down to what you were taught in elementary school. Like, you treat others how you want to be treated. Like, if you are a first class, I won't say chief, you're a first class, and you know someone's in your rate, and they're someday going to reach your position, why would you not train them how you wanted to be trained? So that when they're you and you are some senior chief, you know, oh no, that first, oh no, she's got her shot.
What if they want you to learn the tough way?
It doesn't have to always be tough, and I think that's the disconnect. Struggle culture is so normalized. Oh, if you don't struggle, you didn't really go through it. You're better if you struggle.
So let me ask you a question. Let's take this back to boot camp, right? There was 100 people in boot camp, right? There was all levels of people in that boot camp, right? From the people who you told them to go clean a head and they went in there and they sat down, right? To the people that were hard charging, right?
Yeah.
How do you make a baseline as an organization for both of those spectrums? Because you're going to have that, right? We know people, and you probably know people, right? You went to A school, right? Yeah. There's 20 people in A school. You can probably look up all 20 of those right now and give me a report. And there's from the top to the bottom. The guy that don't want to be there, don't want to do nothing, DSing around, to someone like you that's hard performing, hard charging, right? You want the middle line for everything, right? But sometimes the middle line is not going to work for you.
I don't think there should be a middle line. I think people get tested on their pay grade. I don't get tested on a second class pay grade because I'm in between a second and a first. I get tested on a third pay grade because that's all I know. If I just got here, why would you put me in an engine room and say, hey, you need to draw the bilge? What's the bilge? Find it. Start here and find it and follow it. Oh, you missed a spot? Go back and redo the whole thing. Where did I miss? Go back and find it. How do you expect me to... Yeah. Oh, you're just pushing me off. Okay. Now I'm standing in this engine room. I'm on 1 and 3s. And
What kind of platform were you on when you came in?
I was on a 270.
How was your experience?
Similar
or different?
Yeah, I had a rough experience. Coming in, being a little bit older, being a single mom, and coming from Coast Guard. My dad being active duty, my uncle being active duty, my cousin being active duty, my granddaddy was a Marine. Like, I come from this. And I was like, oh, I have to get this done. Going to boot camp twice because I got hurt the first time and having to come back a year later and having to eat that and try it again. I'm already carrying all this coming in. And I get to the 270, I'm a very bubbly person. And everyone was like, yeah, you're not going to last very long. This is going to suck the life out of you. And I'm like, whoa, what's it going to play? No, it's not. I'm like, let's have fun. Let's do morale. Oh my gosh. Like, I want to create me a family. No. I didn't know that I got violently seasick. I didn't know that I would be depressed. I didn't know that I would miss my kid the way that I miss my kid. I didn't know that it would be to the point where I'm literally in Doc's office weeping and telling him, please let them send me home. I cannot do this anymore. I feel isolated. I'm one of 2 black women on this boat. And before we went on my first patrol, the other black woman left. So I'm now the only black woman out of 150 people on this boat. The only woman on the deck force. Because the other girl decided she wanted to be a fireman. Hey, do your thing, boo. And now I'm one girl with 14 boys. And that was hard. I got my third talking to me crazy, and I'm looking at him like, first of all, I'm older than you. You are bugged out right now. Have some respect. But, oh, no, I got to have the respect. Oh, okay. Being followed down to the bathroom by a man because I wasn't where I was supposed to be. But the boys are allowed to do whatever they want in Ira Berthen. They allowed to fight up there. But I got a negative page 7 for arguing with someone. They in JPO fighting. How I know? Because I've seen the videos. Because I've been down there. They down there fighting with JOs. That's okay? I can't argue with nobody? Allegedly. Now I'm big bad black girl?
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So
I don't have no videos to show proof.
Ain't nobody messing with main prop.
Been on one,
Sorry.
been on one. That's all I'm saying. Please do not sue us. Please do not cancel us in our first episode. But if you know, you know.
So
I'm just
it could be also a gender thing and a platform thing.
But it
right?
shouldn't have to be that.
Shouldn't have to be. Yes, you're right.
We all went through boot camp. That should have been the end of the bullying and hazing. As soon as we got to debriefs and it was, hey, my name is such and such. I got 3 kids. I'm not really mean in real life. This is a joke. Cool. That's where we should have opened the door to, hey, let's transition into this is not the real Coast Guard.
Yeah.
The amount of people I had to tell that in boot camp so that they did not lose their minds. We in a bathroom. I got boys breaking down to me. I can't do this. I'm like, guys, this is a script. They do not hate us. Make it to week 7. I promise you. We can just make it to week 7. They do not hate us.
Yeah.
Like people ready to fight CCs, and I get it. It tests your patience because it's breaking you down to build you up. Hey. Play out your Piper. I love you. But girl, you have me scared out my boots.
I'm still scared of her to this day.
I had a bone to
Listen,
pick.
Chief Willie, I only got yelled at for crying. Do y'all understand?
Start from the bottom, now we here, Carly.
Ad-lib, crying every single sweat session. It was Cornelius, the tears. I'm uncomfortable. Stop crying. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So what is we as Epic gonna do to change this culture that you speak of?
We create the family. We create the safe space. We create somewhere for people to land softly. The world is hard enough. The service is hard enough. We don't need to be hard all the time.
Exactly.
We have to have a space for Tafiti. Like if y'all have seen
Moana,
if you see Moana, she
Yeah.
was Taka the whole movie because she was hardened, because she had experienced all these things, and you had to finally become Tafiti. People need
Great
that
reference.
safe space. You need the safe space. You need
Yeah.
somewhere soft to land.
Also, it's,
The uniform's hard enough, and we take off the uniform. We can't take off our skin, which is a whole nother issue.
We'll get there.
And we'll get there.
We'll get there another
And
episode.
we'll get there.
There'll be many of episodes we're gonna get there.
But I'm saying that's already a battle we're walking in, and we can't escape that one. And to be very clear, I wouldn't escape it. I'd be black in every lifetime. Thank you. But to have to be in this service and represent people that do not like us, that do not care about us, that do not think that what we're doing is real service, because the amount of times that we get mistaken for the National Guard, the Air Guard, the Space Force, the Navy, the DOT, DOB, CIA, every alphabet organization but the Coast Guard.
Is that how you feel when you go to work every day? That's your current Navy job?
I mean, they definitely do look down on the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
In the Navy. I mean, but I think that's just natural.
Brother,
what is it
sister
called?
kind of vibe.
Yeah, it's like tribal or brother sister type.
that was
thing,
crazy
you
because
know?
some people actually take it like very seriously. Like,
Yeah.
you guys don't like the amount of
Like we
comments.
gangs or
Yeah.
something. Like,
Like you guys don't do anything.
Brother,
I'm
please.
like, all right. Like,
But I did want to speak on the other part y'all were talking about. Like, so I was having a conversation. I think it was with you, Liv. Talking about how boot camp, like the transition going from boot camp to your unit,
yeah.
and how there's a mismatch. It's just interesting to me that we try to prepare people for the Coast Guard with the boot camp that we have now. It doesn't seem like those two things match,
Doesn't
right?
translate.
Because I think people wouldn't have a hard time with, like, to your point about the hardness of it, you know, trying to build or mold better shipmates. They wouldn't have as hard of a time with that if there were some similarity when you get to the unit.
Yeah.
It seems, I think,
it's a hard jump.
there's a hard jump, but it also seems like to you maybe you felt like you were being singled out versus that being the actual culture of the ship, right?
And that shouldn't be the culture of any of the ships.
Right, but I think if it were, just my opinion, I think you'd have an easier time accepting it because you'd say, okay, well, everybody's going through this, whether they're newly reported or they're first class, they've been there, and okay, but we have this strict standard and everybody's got, but you probably, feeling like you were being singled out, but then you go and you look at the first class or the chief or whoever, they're leaving early, they have, chill job, like they don't have the same level of standard across the board, and I think that's probably a little bit of it. I don't know what y'all think about it.
I think in order to address that, you would have to address it. And that means we got to peel back the layers of the things that is wrong with this organization. We don't want to do that. It's worked for so long, why should we change it?
Yeah.
I've been in 20 years, it didn't hurt my feelings. I made it up the ranks, so because I struggled, you got to struggle.
Yeah.
But that's not That's not the world that we live in.
Exactly.
And we not the first ones to say that either. We just the loudest ones saying it.
Mhm.
That's it. We're the most persistent ones saying it.
Okay.
I've heard my dad tell me stories the last 25 years of his career.
Mhm.
And I've been in for 2 years and can tell him the same stories. That's a problem.
Right.
For the same stuff to keep happening and we not getting nowhere.
But y'all see the challenge. Like, we can tell you just from the fact that we've been, working in this space for a little bit, it's not easy. I think I've joked with some of y'all and say, like, I'm kind of sacrificing my own personal achievement of trying to move up in the ranks in order to try to make an impact on the culture of the Coast Guard to an extent. So I think, to be fair to the people that are in these positions, they're trying to make money. I mean, they have families, they have kids,
Yeah.
they got things they got to take care of. So they're like, yo, I'm trying to make rank so that I can make money.
Yeah.
I don't have time to sit here and try and change 40,000, however many people in the Coast Guard, at the same time.
But if everybody thinks like that, nobody wins.
Exactly.
If everybody's worried about going up the ladder instead of bringing the people that are across with you up at the same time, we don't get there. The backbone of the Coast Guard is what? Non-rates and E4s. And we get treated the worst out of everybody, which is crazy because almost everybody has been us before.
Yeah.
Everybody has.
So, like,
It's crazy you say that about the boat, because when I was on a boat, it didn't matter if you weren't whatever pay grade you were. If you weren't qualified, your peers gave you crap. Like, if you were
the
E5
other
and
deck
you weren't
boys weren't
qualified,
and they got to
they'd
do
be
something.
like, yo, you get out of here, bro. Like, you ain't supposed to be in here. To see that culture has changed, I think it's only changed for that small portion. I think the other peers need to hold their own peers accountable, because I think you would see it differently if you seen the E5 tell his fellow E5, you ain't qualified, get off my mess deck.
Yeah. Great point.
You ain't no different than seaman whoever or fireman whoever. I think you would see a difference.
If we hold the standard, hold it forever.
Because when we were on the boat, it was like that. I didn't care who you were. Like, when an SK3 came or when an OS3 came and we were doing like import stuff, nah, we watching the football game on Sunday. Nah, bro, go get qualified, bro. I don't care.
This is
I don't
where
care.
it goes back to what I was saying before. It's like, if you have an expectation between yourselves that's higher than what the supervisor is going to be bringing, the supervisor can't really impact you the same way.
Or if the supervisor is already checked out and not really being helpful at all, then what do we do?
That your peers.
If the third is the same age as all of the non-rates and they all playing Fortnite together, who do I go to then? Then I got to jump you and go to the second. The second yelling at me because I should have went to the third. I go to the third again. Now I got to go to the chief. Now I got to go to 1LT.
Yeah.
Now I got to keep jumping around people because nobody wants to answer the question.
I'll keep going back to it. It's going to be your peers. I'm
Just like you want me to hold fellow chiefs accountable, right?
Yes.
I want you to hold fellow third classes accountable.
Yeah.
But a lot of that doesn't happen.
Exactly.
I don't care if you go from a captain down to a E2. I don't think anyone is holding anybody accountable in their peer groups, because sometimes your peer groups also affect how you promote.
Yeah.
The peer groups also affect your political standing in the workplace, right? They also affect your political standing outside the workplace, right? Because at some point of time, your peer group or the peer group before you may be making decisions on how you promote, right? We're going to now E9s going on boards. I'm sure these people, when they read their packets, they know who these people are, right? Now, if I didn't check you, we cool now. We good. But now if I check Olivia, now, if I see her name on the board, I might be scared. But if I see you on the board, we good. We having a go.
But isn't that exactly what we speak against in the Coast Guard? We're not supposed to have retaliation. We're not supposed to have reprisal, retribution. Those things are not supposed to be allowed, but it happens all the time. I reported a racist incident on my boat. Watching all of the deck force do something very racist in front of me, a black woman, I called my dad immediately because I said, hey, I'm about to lose my top. Somebody's going in the water. He said, go report it. He said, if it doesn't get handled by the end of the day, call me back. Because now he about to drop that officer rank and be like, y'all better figure out what's happening on this boat. I reported it. They did an investigation. The entire deck department stopped speaking to me. The entire department. So that's the tough part of accountability is when people don't want to hear it, they don't want to hear it. So then that makes it harder for me to get qualified, because when I'm asking questions, it's, oh, well, go ask them. I can't ask them. If all the boys are upstairs and I don't know what's happening, I don't know what our current tasking is.
So I'll put that question over to our strategists
Oh, shoot.
on how you should handle that situation.
I mean, I think that comes down to the conversation. Like, so did you ever, I'm just curious, I'm not trying to like put blame on it all, but did you ever just sit down and have that conversation with any of the other peers that were in your deck force and say like, yo, why y'all ain't talking to me?
Absolutely. I think y'all know me well enough to know I'm a
Speaking
clarity
line.
person.
And what?
And I asked that, and it was, oh, well, we didn't think it was that big of a deal, and you know, we have black guys in here, and they didn't think it was. I said, yeah, but y'all are all guys. So that's the first level that y'all are together, and I am not. Regardless, it's not something you say in the workplace. You can't do that.
See, I think, okay, and this is gonna sound, it may sound different than what you may want to hear, but I think that sometimes this is where it goes back to the humility part of things, because in that situation, politically speaking, you are at a disadvantage. You have no power or leverage because you're a minority in many different ways, right? Already. And then you're in that situation where now that's been heightened because of that situation that you reported, right? So this is where it goes back to, you know, what you're able to take or what you're able to withstand at that moment. If you go into this situation already thinking like, I'm ready to be isolated, right? I'm ready that I know that there are going to come times when I'm isolated, and you take that on and you say, okay, this moment, I'm the low person on the totem pole, and so I'm going to have to take a more humble approach. I might have to go out of my way a little bit more. So I went through a similar thing a couple times, you know, and one time in particular, when I was at ESD New York, I got the bad rap because I was having some personal situations with an ex-wife, right? So
You bringing your mess to work?
not necessarily.
You one of them.
See, that's a stereotype. See, you just did a stereotype.
No, I'm
of another
asking because
person.
didn't we talk about having healthy workplaces and not bringing our baggage to work? That's what I meant by
But
that.
some people have to bring their baggage to work.
That is true.
That might
Because
be their
your
safe
work
place.
is
That's fair.
also part of your life.
That's fair, especially if you're on your cutter, and
So
especially
you
if you're under
could have now have been the supervisor that could have told ET2 at the time, you bringing your baggage
I'm so
to
sorry,
work.
ET2.
See how quickly that can.
I'm so sorry.
You know, but the way I would handle it, the way I handled that when you were doing that is that I just took the approach. Okay, that's your opinion, right? That's your thoughts, but this is my reality. You know, like I'm the only whatever at that workplace. I'm the one that has the family drama. So now I have to go a little bit further in order to show that I'm bought into this department. You know, like I actually have to put in a little bit more from a humble perspective, and it's not like what you're saying is true. They should be more understanding in that moment, but you can't force other people to do anything.
Exactly.
You realize
sometimes you gotta adapt.
You got bingo. That's the best word right there. You're adapting to that moment, right? Like I think that is where, you know, we get a lot of, like, we've done surveys for Epic, and people tell us a lot of experiences that are similar, right? And now we got to collectively start figuring out how to help other people know how to navigate those situations. Because right now there's a third class, there's a non-rate at some boat somewhere that's going through this same thing, right? And you can sit here and tell them every day, like, yo, the Coast Guard should do different, but that's not going to help them at this moment.
Not changing it.
That they're in right now, right? So
How do we meet people where they are?
Exactly. We have to meet them where they're at and figure out, you know, how to teach them these things early before it gets to that point where they've checked out or worse, you know. So that's my thought process on the strategy part of it.
Yeah.
But
no, strategy is what you need, because, and that's why we go well together, right? Our Coast Guard careers are very different, right?
Yeah.
I am in a rating where there's all minorities. I will say it on this podcast. I have never been in a room where I've been the only person. I don't care when I was a non-rate. We called the boat Amistad. It's because all the black people were in the deck department. So my peer group was with me. So I didn't feel different when something happened. We were all together. We felt it together. It was like, all right, well, gotta keep working. All right, we're gonna ignore this person, and we're gonna move this way, right? So when I went to SKA school, some guys that I'm still cool with today, Jordan, Sharpaletti, we black people. Go to my first unit. I think I was the only minority there in the sense of everyone was prior service, and I wasn't prior service, right? But their experience from being in other services led me to appreciate the Coast Guard. So the minority came in that way. Even though I was the only black guy in the room, but
that intersection.
Yeah.
that intersection brought me there. So every step of my career has been different. So when we're having conversation, it's more of me understanding the personalities behind it, because I can't understand how it is to be in a room and people are against you. I'm like, all right, I'm an SK. First of all y'all want something that I got.
Hello.
Yeah.
Whether it's the money or the supply. So you ain't gonna come in here too. Because
crazy.
back in the day, I can just lose your little PR right in the garbage.
Then
right?
I talk hard.
Right? But now,
It's real.
coming full circle, it's like, all right, I got to understand that everybody is not that way. Everybody have different experience. So I'm starting to see different people in the Epic come and they say, okay, this happened to me. I'm like, okay, all right. How would I have felt if I was in that position? Like when I met Jerome, right? He was the only person in the ET shop, right? But we became cool because of basketball, right? So it was us against two other guys from the book. They wanted to see, every time we went to the report call, they wanted to see us two play against these two, right? Every single time, right? And then it became, we had a bond and then basketball was going on. But even there, as an SK, right? It was 4 of us in the SK shop. All of us were a minority in some type of way. I was a black guy. We had a female. We had someone that was gay at the time with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And then we had a Hispanic guy. So we all felt like we were in a same minority group. So we all came together. We were all young at the same time. So that's why it's good for us to be in this organization kind of at the forefront. And I hope that when you guys are building your crew, that you build different perspectives, right? Make sure you bring someone who doesn't have the same perspective as you, right? Someone who has been probably like me, or someone who has excelled in the Coast Guard and never had no issue, or someone who has had a few missteps along the way, right? Someone who doesn't have family in the Coast Guard, which could be one of those, right? Make sure you're doing that, because it makes a holistic approach to the situation, right? That's why I can kick it to Jerome and say, answer that question from your perspective, because I can't really answer, and I would never do that because it'd be ungenuine, right? I don't want to speak from a perspective that I don't have. People can see that right away, right? We're gonna put this podcast. People know my career, right? Like that didn't happen to you when I went to Bahrain. There's 4 or 5 black dudes in the room. We were in a shop, my first shop ever. Everybody in the shop was black. We didn't have no experience. We eventually had one white guy. We had to now figure out how to incorporate him into the situation, right? This is something I do now, and Jerome was talking about. I do it at my workplace, right? We have every right, 10 recruiters, right? I have individually went and done something with each recruiter, right? They respect that, right? I got a recruiter that is big into baseball, coaches baseball for his kid. I went to a baseball game. The amount of respect I have for that person by just doing that carries a long way. So I think sometimes the reverse effect is you stepping outside of your boundaries and meeting them. Right? If you are the single person and you got married people, go to the event. Go to the your supervisor's daughter's little birthday. You'll get so much respect. And then vice versa, I think you'll see that from them too. A lot of people in the Coast Guard are going to reciprocate a lot of energy, right? You're going to get some people there may not reciprocate the energy, but like Jerome was saying, just take that as a challenge. You're going to get some different equity from them along the way, and I think that's kind of what we got to.
So I will not challenge, but I'd ask you. I'll try to find a way or experience that you may have had that. What about when it comes to being in the Chiefs mess now, or just different? No, well I'm being honest. Like or I could take maybe that one example of the situation we had on the way sheet. Remember when you stepped up and you what I thought did the right thing, trying to be a leader in the first class mess or second class.
Yeah, we
were all seconds at that time, and your peers didn't necessarily give you the respect that I thought maybe you should have had at that moment because you stepped up in the leadership role. What about those types of situations?
Those situations, yeah. At the time, I was trying to get something done, right? But not understanding that I needed the people around me to advocate in that way. And I think we've talked about that a lot, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll mess with you and say it doesn't matter, right? But it does matter, right? It matters when you put something out that your peers articulate it, follow it, even give you their feedback. A lot of those things, right? I think a lot of us get into the cheese mess, and we've talked about this sometimes, and we just don't say anything, right? Just watch everything go, and we're like, that doesn't matter to me. I think sometimes that's the fear of the other side, right?
Yeah, for
Your
sure.
peers not accepting you in the work.
You're in that same situation now as them. You have
And
no
sometimes
leverage.
we're in that same situation, right? Or we can be in the cheese mess, and it's just us, right? I've seen it now, right? There's a senior chief at the unit, right? He's like, hey, we need some more of y'all to be over here. I'm like, well, there's a few of us at the recruiting office, but we don't really want to go over there.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, sometimes I need y'all to show up, right?
Yeah.
I need my allies to show up, right? I need you guys sometimes to speak, right? So, yes, every step of the way you're going to see this, right? I don't think y'all think, hey, we in the cheese mess and we all cool. No, we're not cool in there all the time.
Great.
I would say we have our battles in there. You're going to have your personality differences, right? I may challenge my peer that is now, you're in that shop of my peer, right? And I may advocate for you, right? You don't always see that sometimes that we're advocating for you, and they're not going to let you know that I'm advocating for you at the same time, or I'm not going to let you know. You may just see things happen, and you knew that someone was back there helping. And I think we have to speak up, right? And I think that's what we're trying to get to. Is a lot of us now are at the chief level, or or in the ward room, right? I would say a lot of the founding people that started Epic are all officers now, right? We were on a phone call the other day, and I think at the time I was the only one that was still going to be in the enlisted side. That's now, it's only Jerome is the only guy, right? So we've all progressed, but are we checking our peers at every step of the way? I think we have to do a better job of that in the chief's mess of checking our peers, right? But it's that thing we trying to promote too. Some of your minorities are trying to promote. Like they say, all kinfolk ain't skinfolk, right?
And they're not. I think that's a good place to stick a pin in this, leaving it on accountability. We want to give them something to chew on so that they can come back.
There you go.
So thank you for joining us for our first podcast. Be kind to yourself and others. Bye.
All right.
We just needed space, we took it up to the moon. PDA, my women hate us like it a room. So we just put a brothel by the salty spittoon. Got a little